You are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Naomi Slater, and you have tuned in to Divine Couples, adding intimacy, passion, and healing to your lives. Joy MILLEA is first and foremost a mother, guide, and friend to 3 adult children and 1 preteen. A yoga practitioner and teacher for over 17 years, she infuses the yogi lifestyle into all areas of her life. In 2009, she opened an in-home preschool for infants and toddlers called ZenKids, where she put to use her degrees in psychology and early childhood education, her training in yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and experience in parenting. ZenKids is the basis for her latest endeavor, ZenMoms, a program that supports working moms who juggle work, home, and kids, find equilibrium, balance, and inner peace while they pursue their life's desires and goals. Hi, Joy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Naomi. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, my
Glad
pleasure.
I could be here.
Me too. Yeah, so Joy, you decided to turn to me for guidance on intimacy and to develop a self-love practice. And I would love for you to speak to how come.
Okay. Well, honestly, I didn't know I needed guidance until I read a post that you put on Instagram. And the post had something to do with the history of female sexuality. And I think you described, our ancient cultures, so many ancient cultures worshipped, they had like female sex gods, and they worshipped them as sacred. And that was a really foreign concept to me because as society and history, time goes on, the female sexuality was considered, less sacred and more on the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
Where female sexuality was kind of considered unholy, unclean, manipulative. Those were some of the, the words that you used. And I realized that is actually how I did view my sexuality. It was kind of secret. It was something you don't put out there or talk about. And I consider myself modern, open-minded. I'm really open to a lot of things. And I thought, well, this is new. And I wanted to just explore that area of myself. I work on, bettering and developing all the areas of myself. But this was one area I had never considered. And so that just turned a light on for me. And so I contacted you, and I'm really glad I did.
So am I. It was such a pleasure working with you. So, yeah, and I would love to hear from you, what are some of the major challenges you were facing before we started working together?
Well, like I said, didn't realize that I needed guidance or was even having any challenges.
Yeah.
I am a single mom. So as far as intimacy goes, I wasn't involved at all with a partner. And I really didn't have a sexual practice, period. But that wasn't what I was going for. I just wanted to explore this sexuality. So I think the biggest challenge there was understanding what it could do for me, how it could better me. And I really, I just didn't think that it would give me any empower. I didn't understand how it could empower me or, just going deeper into myself. So it was, I guess, belief systems really what my challenges were.
Your beliefs around your own sexuality.
Of course. And I didn't see it as that when I first signed up with you. That kind of came a little later.
Yeah.
But I realized that that's what it was, that I really didn't think it was important. I didn't think that pleasure was important. That was something that I just put aside. And it was just such a brand new concept to me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people they sign up to work with me and they don't necessarily have, like three reasons or three challenges that they were facing necessarily. Sometimes it's really just this kind of internal knowing that they feel that I can help them in some way. And I think, I can kind of put you into that category.
That's exactly how I would describe it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just felt there was something missing, and I wanted to explore that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I know that since we worked together, there are things that you were, of course, able to identify, things that you really overcame, I think, in many ways. So what were some of the patterns that maybe you realized along the way that you wanted to free yourself from?
Right. Yes. Yes,
Mm.
for sure. Funny
Mm-hmm.
how I didn't see any of it beforehand. But
Yeah.
once we dove into some of the yogi egg practices,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the recurring pattern for me really was how I minimized the importance of pleasure. I know you probably remember like every single time over and over having to remind me of that.
Yeah.
And I just, I think it manifested in my inability to verbalize or express my pleasure. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's something else I know. We worked, as soon as we discovered that, we dove right into that. And I mean, to me, it was normal, but you kept bringing it up over and over until I really had to look at this like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with this? And it might sound like a really minuscule issue, but as you know, that's, not where the pattern ended.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did I not express my pleasure, but I also didn't express any of my desires, any of my dislikes. I didn't express my anger. So
Mm-hmm.
it spread into all areas of my life. It wasn't just about expressing my pleasure or making, audible sounds
Right.
while pleasuring. That
Yeah.
was not it at all.
Thank
It
you
was
for saying that.
huge. Well, it turned out to be huge. And
Yeah.
not only did we explore my inability to express anger, but you did help me dive into some of my other relationships and how it was affecting the relationships with my children and my family members, that I was not expressing myself in a timely manner. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw some real improvements in my relationship once I did. And I was able to start teaching my children, like, okay, this is important, you guys. We need to start expressing ourselves. And
Yeah.
I could do that by example. I could say, okay, I'm going to, express this to you. And then they in turn could practice that. So it was like a very safe, free place and space
Yeah.
for them to practice expressing themselves. So it was very valuable, a huge valuable lesson.
Oh, that's so amazing. And I'm so happy that you brought up, that it was way more than just you expressing your pleasure. People, when they think about what I do, they think that what I do is only related to sexuality or sexual pleasure. And nothing could be farther from the truth. I mean, that's definitely an aspect of it. But our sexuality is so connected to every other aspect of our lives. It's connected to our ability to communicate and express our emotions and how that shows up in pretty much everything we do in all of our relationships, not just our sexual relationships with others, our relationship first and foremost to ourselves. But it really does affect every aspect of our life. So thank you for speaking to that.
Yes. I mean, I now view the Yoni egg practice as a spiritual practice, and any spiritual practice is going to better your entire life, not just one area of your life, but it just makes you a wholer person. And that's just what I found out with this.
Yeah, well, I would love for you to explain what the Yoni practice did for you.
Well, okay.
The Yoni egg practice, yeah.
Yeah, the Yoni egg practice. And like I said before, I'm pretty open-minded and I considered myself kind of free-spirited and really wanted to take on anything that came my way. And you were very, very patient and informative when we were going through this because it didn't come as naturally as I imagined and thought it would. Um, so I learned a lot about the anatomy of my yoni, which is never taught to you. I never did in a million years did I know all of the anatomy that you taught me. And I learned that it's not just a body part like I thought it was. It was just a body part. It was functional and it did things for my body. And what you taught me was that it's actually an entity of its own, my yoni. And it is the seat of, maybe not the seat of my consciousness, but the seat of my well-being. It really has its own seat, and it is powerful. And I think that what that practice taught me was to kind of not worship or honor it so much as to acknowledge that it is sacred. Acknowledge that I was born a female. I was born with the ability to procreate, to, that was amazing. And I understood that when I had children.
Yes, we are magicians.
It is. Yep. It was really like that, having children. But again, I just thought of it more as a scientific, miracle of nature. It happens to everyone. But I think for us, it's just it is now. She sits at the throne of my being now.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I didn't acknowledge her. I didn't acknowledge her as an entity. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing I could say the Yoni egg practice has done for me. I mean, I think about like asking her for her permission before entering. That blew me away. And after that, I considered her, just like my friend now. I don't know if that sounds funny or crazy, but that's really how it seems to me.
Well, it doesn't sound funny or crazy to me. So, I'm all for it. And I think that it's a really, really important part of activating our sexual energy and our life force energy, because what I'm hearing from a lot of other women's yonis, that may sound strange, but what I'm hearing is that a lot of them feel neglected. They don't feel, it's, just what you just said. They don't feel like they're getting enough attention. Nobody's asking her what she wants. Is she ready? Is she happy? Is she feeling taken care of? Is there trauma that she needs help releasing? And she knows exactly what she needs.
So wise. And I don't know if it's okay with you if I speak to that exercise we did or not, but you took me through, you brought me to a certain space first, mentally and emotionally, and then you started asking my Yoni questions about how she felt, and I was able to respond for her, but it was never anything I had thought about before. So it was not coming from my mind. It definitely was not. And then you recorded that and you played it back for me. I think you actually, wrote it down and sent it back to me. And I almost didn't remember what she said. It was so enlightening that she did feel neglected. And I thought, what, why, how, So I experienced the same thing you're saying. And until I started working with this, I had no idea that it was even an issue. So, that Yoni egg practice is really enlightening.
Yeah, and like you said, it's really a spiritual practice. It's not like using a vibrator. It has a very different effect.
No, right. And I think, our society, modern day society, still is viewing female sexuality